So, what was it like having kids in the wartime? And you were telling me about rationing and stuff earlier.
Well, you had to be very careful what you bought, and like making Wendy, registering her as vegetarian so that we got more cheese. I think at one time we were on 1 ounce a week and then it went up to two. But Wendy, as a vegetarian, got 10 ounces of cheese, plus I had two. And I could do a lot more with cheese, like child-wise. And I used to make cheese and potato cakes. They like those. And we got 1 egg a week, so I could give them, scramble it and dip the bread in an egg, and then fry it lightly both sides, egg bread, which they loved. And I'd always bought stewing steak, which I could cook, and then mince it. Had hand mincer. You could mince it up and do a lot with mince. And I used to save the stock, make soup out of that. Put lots of vegetables in it as well. That was quite nourishing with soup with that. And then you gradually eat it out through the week. It was difficult, but they say we were a healthier nation then than we are now.
Wow.
And you had lots of exercises because you didn't have all the gadgets, washing machines and that. So we managed all right.
And what did you used to do during air raids and stuff?
With what?
With the air raids?
Get in shelter quick. I can remember going down with my mum to the shelter and running down there, and there was a mouse in there. My mum wouldn't go in the shelter because there was a mouse down there. And she came back, quick, no, go back, there's a mouse in the shelter. We were more frightened of mice than we were the Hitler's bombs. And when the doodlebugs came out, my father was coming down to the shelter and he could hear this, and he's looking around and he's sitting, this thing looked as if it was sitting on his shoulder almost, so he dived down, came in with a big rush, and it actually fell on a house just over the hill from us. It was gliding down. When it cuts out, it starts going down. And the first time we heard of them, we had a flat at Chillingham, and Wendy was in her cot beside us, and we were in this, it was a one-bedroom flat, and I could hear this sounded like a plane in distress, roaring, the engine was. Got out of bed and peeped out through the curtains, and I could see this. I thought it was a plane. I thought it was further away because it was small, and with fire coming out of it. And I thought, one of our planes is in trouble. Got back into bed and I heard another one, so I got out. There was another one of them. I thought, God, they, really getting our pilots tonight. And then Grandad woke up. I said, we've got lots of planes coming over. They're on fire. And he looked. He said, they're not planes. He said, I don't know what they are, but they're not planes. They're too small. And that was the first of the doodlebugs, or V1s as they called them. And then after that, when they died out, because our pilots used to go and tip their wing and make them get down in open country before they could get to the towns mainly, but a lot got through. One fell on a big Woolworths store in London that was full of people, and ruined that, and a lot of lives lost. And then they sent the rockets over, and they used to just fire them from France, and you didn't know a thing until it landed, because you couldn't hear them, a rocket, and it would be coming over, and it hit one at Wee Court Garage, which was about from here to our local shops, away from us. And your mum was, I'd just been feeding it and changed her nappy, and I was doing this to her on my lap, and suddenly those S-locks on the windows, it blew it straight across the room and embedded it in the sideboard opposite, and just where she would have been, and I just put it down. Wendy came rushing in. She was pushing a little wooden horse, and she came rushing in, went 3 times around the table, and then threw herself out to me, fighting the life out of her. And my mother said to my father, go and see if Edna's all right, because you could see our house from the back of theirs. And he said, well, the house looks all right, I'll go round and see. But she'd been nagging him to tidy the shed because he was always getting out screws and spending hours looking for them. So he tidied the shed up and nailed some jam jar lids to the underneath of the shelf and screwed them up, had them all out nicely, tins of paint stacked nicely, and it ruined the shed. It knocked all the paint off and it went everywhere. All these little jars were shattered. And lots of Germans.
After all of his hard work.